Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Shawn and Suss Show. Doing another positional breakdown today at the quarterback position, the elite quarterbacks. Last video we did Jaden and Jalen. This one we're getting into the top two dogs by ADP, the two biggest hitters in fantasy football, third round staples, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Shawn, which side of the fence are you falling on in this debate?
So give me Josh Allen in this situation. I think they're both amazing. They're my one and two. Josh is one by ADP slightly over Lamar. Josh has some of the best weapons around him. Now, they aren't the best weapons in the National Football League by any stretch, but Keon Coleman had a wrist injury last year, which really affected him in his rookie year. Khalil Shakir put up some of the best efficiency numbers, both as a at the catch point and yak, and he played about 65% of the routes last year, and I think that number is going to go up, and I think his value right now is crazy, crazy good. Josh is one of the best goal line backs as a quarterback. He's averaged about 15 rushing touchdowns the last few years. The one thing in the regression side in his favor is that we don't really think of James Cook as this goal line whiz as a back, but he scored, what was it, 16, 18 touchdowns last year. And I think some of those go to Josh Allen in an environment where they're still projected to be one of the best scoring offenses in the league, without a doubt. You get Josh Palmer on a 3-year deal, which is better than what they've had in supporting players. There's still room for some degree of Dalton Kincaid development. We're still drafting him as a high end tight end too, maybe not the game breaking power slot pure receiving tight end that we thought he could be, but the combination of his aggressive play, his brilliance at the goal line, and some improved weapons, and we hope some improved efficiency, both from Keon, Khalil Shakir, Kincaid, and others. That gives me the slight edge. Allen, I do like Lamar's overall output and situation, but it just seems like everything went super perfect and right. And as a speedier, smaller quarterback, he's not going to get as many touchdowns out of Derrick Henry's hands. And the team is as motivated to keep him healthy as possible. And Josh is a more gutsy, not like overall, but he's willing to put his body on the line like in the regular season. Lamar in those critical situations will. And for fantasy, for those rushing yards, that's what gives me the slight edge. But this isn't a very large gap for me. Probably ADP, I'd probably split him 3, 4 spots, if anything.
Yeah, Josh Allen's been the pinnacle of health in his career, been a very durable player. Again, I wonder how long that will continue. The man is entering his age 29 season, and he has sustained some significant hits year in, year out. Lamar Jackson has missed some games here and there, but he's been better about protecting his body the last 2 years, only missing one game total the last 2 years. Man, I really worry about Josh Allen near the goal line. That dude just does not protect himself whatsoever. And if I'm looking at it from an injury risk perspective, although, games missed historically would say Lamar is a bigger risk, looking forward and just the kind of lessons that have not been learned by Josh, it's going to come back to bite him eventually. Everyone runs bad on variance in terms of injuries. Eventually, if they take enough hits, just how it goes in football. Last year, Lamar Jackson led fantasy in touchdowns, led fantasy in points per game at the quarterback position. 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. The dude is hitting his prime. And I think it's no coincidence that happened with Derrick Henry arriving. It just takes so much pressure off of him. Might be counterintuitive to think his fantasy points would go up with a guy like Derrick Henry, but at the end of the day, when you have to worry about the dual threat of Lamar rushing and passing and Derrick Henry rushing, becomes a greater than it's the sum of its parts type situation where you're just breaking teams in every which way, consistently scoring a ton of points as a result. When you have a Gus Edwards there, or whoever else they've had over the years there in Baltimore, those running backs really just did not strike fear in the hearts of those defenses. I think with the RPOs they can run, all the play action stuff, and Lamar rolling out, I think we're going to get another damn near 40 touchdowns from Lamar. The red zone efficiency is going to be crazy yet again. You have the emergence of Isaiah Likely. Zay Flowers is ascending. Rashad Bateman finally broke out last year. They bring in another decent red zone threat in DeAndre Hopkins. This team just has a lot of weapons. And we'll see with Mark Andrews. A lot of people are predicting a decline, but I actually think last year might have been a blip in terms of his yardage being low because he was coming off a pretty serious ankle fracture in 2023. And then he had a car accident right before the season last year that seemed to rattle him pretty good. I think last year was a bit of a down year for Mark Andrews in terms of being in the 600 something receiving yards. Could be better this year. He's not hurt. He's not getting in car accidents. It's always a good sign. And at the end of the day, I just have supreme faith that Lamar's arm talent is better than Josh's. Maybe that's just a little bit anecdotal, but as far as the efficiency of Lamar, like, dude, let's really think about it. Like, do you really think Josh is a better passer at the football than Lamar?
Josh has a more live arm. I think his decision making at times is worse. I think it's a pure like arm football, move it around. I think Josh is better, but Lamar makes better decisions with the ball. Now,
Well, Lamar's got Josh has more of like a true cannon, let it rip 50, 60 yards, but Lamar's placement is so nice, dude. He can still hit a guy like in stride 40 yards downfield with a nice little bit of arc to it.
yeah, Lamar had some crazy, crazy grades. So the thing with Lamar is that his efficiency now, there's kind of two sides of the fantasy argument is really their opportunity and their efficiency with that opportunity. So you expect Lamar to do better than the expected output of the opportunity that he gets because he's a good quarterback, just like Josh is. Lamar really greatly exceeded his expected numbers. So per player profiler, he was expected to have 24 passing touchdowns and he had 41 last year. His grades were ridiculous. He was consistently pushing the 90s in a lot of different areas, specifically on plays longer than 2.5 seconds. He was well into the 90s. And that's great for those big splash plays, but we don't necessarily know if he's going to be able to maintain like a ridiculous level of efficiency. Like to put it in basketball terms, like if Steph Curry shot 55% from three, like that's amazing, but like we're probably think he's going to be closer to 50 now. In a 1-2 discussion, obviously this is nitpicking. Like the QB2 to me is Lamar Jackson. He's awesome, but the slight edge with Allen has some ascending pieces in his profile, and he didn't have the crazy like his best season, like his peak efficiency numbers, and we could still see more of that, and we could see more out of Kincaid. Keon is certainly a candidate to do more, and he did well with a pretty lackluster supporting cast, and James Cook took a lot of those touchdowns. And from an environment standpoint, most of the public stuff has the lines just about both top 10. PFF did dock the Ravens and has them closer to average and has the Bills as the third best line. Their article came out, I think, earlier this week. But again, when you're nitpicking 1 and 2, that might just push a guy down 1 or 2 if we have some concerns, mostly with the interior line of the Ravens, but that might be more for Derrick Henry's like mass efficiency than necessarily for Lamar's case because he has escapability that he can still get around and be fine if the line isn't the best, but that also puts him in a slight vulnerability. He's had some
But
injuries
to your
here and
Steph
there, but
to your Steph Curry point, though, what if he had like the best pick and roll supporting cast? Like, how does Steph Curry have a career year? It's probably with a guy like Derrick Henry taking pressure off of him. Like, those 3 pointers become layups if you have like a guy setting you the perfect screen and like shooters around you. Like, Lamar's never had a Zay Flowers type separator between the 20s. Even young Marquise Brown was not like as good as Zay Flowers is as far as like a route runner, separator. You have not just Mark Andrews now, but the emergence of Isaiah Likely giving you two real threats at tight end. And he's never even had like a Rashad Bateman level wide receiver two, because Rashad Bateman's always been hurt. So we're talking about a
True.
guy who's always been pretty efficient, pretty decent in his over expectation stuff. And now he has the best supporting cast he's ever had, and just objectively as the pass catchers. And he's always made it work with like, either the Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram was decent for a time, but like never like a real game breaker at running back. Like the Latavius Murray, and like there's like some names I totally forget. Derrick Henry last year was, I believe, if not number one, number two graded PFF running back. I think he might have been number one.
Yeah,
And
between him and Saquon Barkley, it's
it's
like
him and
it's
Saquon.
LeBron Durant peak years.
Right.
Like they're
They're
awesome.
not,
Like let's
they're
call a
awesome.
spade a spade.
And you have maybe, top two running back, top two quarterback with all these weapons to throw to. Like Lamar, like just the way he processes, making the right decision. This stuff is like a layup to him. And as long as he keeps processing at that level, like I don't know what would fundamentally change this. Like he's going to break models again, because when you have this perfect confluence, it's kind of like how Saquon had the year he had last year. It's like Jalen Hurts alleviates pressure off of him. Number one offensive line, some decent blocking, from your skill position players. Like, yeah, like you get outlier seasons when you have all these factors coming together, and sometimes these special players just do it. It's so easy to just say regression, and not that you're
That's
necessarily
true.
saying that, but a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
models will. But it's like sometimes we just got to be like, boys, never had two tight ends like this, never had the receivers like this, never had a running back to take pressure off. And like it's hard to overstate, and I've said it multiple times, but like when you have that star running back that the defenses have nightmares about, they have to naturally not worry about something downfield, or like something has to give. And when you have so many ways that you can be diced up, like Lamar is going to make you pay every time, whereas Josh's like calling card for fantasy, at least last year, was the rushing touchdowns. And there's been some discussion in like the local Buffalo media, like is he going to keep rushing for this many touchdowns? Now maybe he has to pass for a little more, but passing touchdown ain't worth what a rushing touchdown's worth, and a passing yard's not worth what a rushing yard's worth. And who's to say they don't just hand it off to Ray Davis a little bit more down there? And do they even have the red zone threats? Like I know they have two tight ends in their own right, but like Dalton Kincaid's like knee is a ticking time bomb. Dawson Knox flat out stinks. Keon Coleman, his separate. I see some mixed stuff on his profile. I can't get there on Keon Coleman. I think there's a potential for a year two leap, but I just didn't love what I saw. I guess he was a bit of a better deep threat than I remember, but that felt like more broken plays to me. Now you can say you're playing in a Josh Allen offense. He can make throws that other quarterbacks wouldn't make. When a broken play develops for Josh Allen, he can capitalize in a way other guys can't. But I don't know. Keon Coleman, like Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore, like what are we doing with these guys? Like outside of Khalil Shakir, none of these guys are even league average weapons to me. Whereas the Ravens have a bunch of guys who are maybe not like elite, but like at least above average. I like who's moving the chains like on Buffalo besides like Ray Davis, James Cook, and Khalil Shakir, and two of those guys are running backs. They're not giving Josh points. He doesn't even check down to him too much.
Yeah, and I think Josh Palmer is a little bit better than you're giving credit for. And again, these are all nitpicking. Now, Lamar totally super smashed his expected totals. I'm just saying that what if we just get a 5-10% regression? Or if I do like the weapons around him, that's true, but we kind of I can kind of prove this through or show my side through other players. So we're saying that Mark Andrews is kind of has like too much touchdown luck in his favor, but like someone threw him the ball, and that's Lamar. We're giving Tyreek kind of a mulligan at his ADP for his hurt wrist, but if Keon Coleman hurts his wrist, and the Bills are a pretty respectable franchise, and they still, not that he's better than Lad McConkey, but they still chose to take him over Lad McConkey. So there's clearly at least
And the
been a.
Patriots took Jalen Polk over Lad
That's true.
McConkey, you know?
That's fair, fair.
And the
That's
Carolina
true.
Panthers took
Okay, you
Xavier
got me
Legette.
there. Yeah, that's fair. Well, we'll see about Leggett, although I'm a
Yep.
little worried about him, but that is fair. The Vegas projections on Keon are pretty strong. Part of the reason is that Josh Allen does lift the team around you when you're in a Josh Allen offense. He's able to extend plays, and yeah, if you're a mid tier click as a receiver in another offense, like that's not great. But if you have 4, 5, 6 seconds to get open, and the QB can throw it to you whenever from any spot in the field. He made Ty Johnson the most productive running back on targets 10 yards or more in the entire National Football League. Like that's like a sporkle level of production just because of who his quarterback is. And that's just kind of the difference. And at the goal line, they say that until the games start, and you're in a tight game with an ascending Miami team, and you got to just punch the ball in to win the game. And Josh is such a competitor. I just think he's going to do the same thing. And we're talking about 15 rushing touchdowns a season. And if Lamar is the brilliant passer, maybe he doesn't have to run as much. And I mean, these are all nitpicks again, but if we're going to have age concerns for Derrick Henry and his production as a great player as a 31-year-old running back, Lamar has to receive some of that downside if it's a, rising, a better running back lifts the offense, just like Saquon helps Hurts, or Cook helps Allen as well.
Yeah, another thing I like about Lamar's profile is he really just doesn't have like crazy floor. Like last year, Josh Allen had some crazy nuke games, but he also had some floor games. He had a 9.8 game, 7.3, 14.6, and 12.2. Lamar didn't have a single game under 15 points, if you can believe it. So I kind of just like, yeah, sure, maybe he doesn't give you the 50, but you don't really need 50 usually. If you're getting more 28s and 30s without, I just don't want a score that can kill me. That's splitting hairs again, but I kind of just like the thing with like Lamar where like you feel pretty good. He's not going to totally let you down in that regard. I really just come back to like sometimes I just get a sinking feeling of when it comes down to injury. Like last year, and this is like maybe it hits, maybe it doesn't. But like last year, I just had like really bad Chris Olave vibes. With the Derek Carr hospital balls. At a certain point, you can only escape injury variance for so long and do that. Like Lamar's gotten pretty good. He used to take some rough hits. Lamar's gotten very good at avoiding hits. Now, sometimes you could like pull up lame, like with a hamstring or something. That's entirely possible. But dude, Josh takes like insanely punishing
That's
hits.
fair.
And you simply cannot avoid that forever. Even a guy like Cam Newton, like we were talking about with Jalen Hurts earlier, like he's better at avoiding it than Josh. I'll give Jalen credit for that. Like man, you cannot be just like going for it like with these linebackers like game after game after game. And they've been talking about it in the Buffalo media again, like if this guy goes from 15 touchdowns to like 8 rushing touchdowns, 7, 8 rushing, let's call it 8, you know, maybe you offset it with 7 passing touchdowns. Maybe you offset it with 4 passing touchdowns and a couple go to rushing to Ray Davis or James Cook or someone to that effect. You go from like a 24 point per game guy to like a 23, which is still pretty good, but like Lamar's like, I don't know how Lamar doesn't get to 24, 25. And I just don't have like the sinking feeling that like Lamar's going to get lit up and like break a collarbone. Like you're just inherently taking 50 to 100 more hits that can induce injury. And like you're not injury prone until you are. Like Derrick Henry was healthy for a number of years and then took one bad hit and missed half of what was going to be maybe his greatest season a few years back. Even the biggest freaks can take one bad hit eventually, and you're not getting any younger. So we're splitting hairs. Both these guys are great,
Of course.
respectively. They're in the Jaden Daniels tier for me, which I hold as that top tier. Josh Allen year after year is a 24 points per game guy. If you go on Fantasy Pros, it says he's 22.6, but they're counting a zero in week 18 for some reason. So I'm not going to count that against him. He's really like a 24 point per game guy. Um, I don't dislike Josh Allen, but I just feel like he has a little bit more inherent risk. Whereas Lamar Jackson, it's like the only thing I can say against him is like his touchdown rate might regress, but then it's like I don't think the offense is going to be worse. So maybe Derrick Henry's son runs like 23 touchdowns, but I think there's going to be a lot of times where they're just moving the ball at will. He fakes a handoff to Henry, and then Lamar does what Lamar does, and that is make a masterful play in the pocket, out of the pocket, hits one of his two tight ends, or Hopkins is a really nice red zone threat, over some of the guys they've had in recent years. If Bateman gets hurt, I might get a little bit worried, and Bateman is known to
Mhm.
get hurt. That is maybe the biggest caveat for him, where it's like that dude did such a good job last year at taking the top off the defense. I think that really helped just kind of expand what they had and open things up for Zay Flowers and the tight ends and the running game. So if Bateman can stay healthy, I feel pretty confident in this pick.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a great offensive environment around him. I think the biggest downside risk for Lamar would be his health. He, it's like as we talked about before, like a bigger guy is just able to sustain more hits, and Lamar still is getting hit. You're a quarterback in the National Football League, and he's had more designed attempts, which also helps for his fantasy rushing yards output, but it does put him in harm's way. He doesn't get to slide every time now. He's been smarter about that, but he's still getting hit. Like he had 113 designed attempts last year, and then 95 and 86. That 3 years ago he missed time. 3 years ago he missed 6 games, and he's had a few times where he's like kind of come out of games and stuff. So there is some degree of downside risk. I would say that the upside potential of Lamar's upside is obviously crazy good. It's just I do see a touch of risk with a slighter frame. I think Josh's weapons they're pretty favored in the Vegas lines. I think Khalil Shakir is just a total smash at his price. Like I think he's just so underrated, and in anytime you're a Buffalo Bill, you're getting lifted up, and the James Cook touchdown side of it, maybe Ray Davis comes in and takes 8 or 9, but I still think of the high value touches, and maybe Josh learns to run out of bounds or slide a little more here and there, but I think we won't see it on the scoreboard. But again, it's just to me it's a slight 1-2 for me. So that's the upside case, is that Josh can get to some of his gaudier passing numbers. Like we've known him a bit recently for his rushing stuff, but in the past he's had it where he's throwing 3, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns and such, and partially some of those downs I would imagine are due to injury as well. And
It, Last year is interesting for Josh. We only got one 4 touchdown game out of him. Looks like maybe 2, 3 touchdown games, but a lot of ones and twos. With Joe Brady there, they're really just intent on running the ball. And if the media there is correct that they're intent on maybe preserving Josh a little bit more for late in the season and just trying to minimize the hits on an almost 30-year-old quarterback. Well, if the offensive coordinator is super run heavy, but he's gonna not run the quarterback as much, that to me screams like, well, they're going to just run James Cook his 200 something carries and then give Ray Davis a bit of a bump where you maybe have a Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery level workload. Obviously not talent level, but just, oh, wait, this team is employing two legitimate running backs. And Ray Davis is like a real fun sleeper. I forget how you feel on him exactly, but he showed some decent underlying stuff.
if you're in the Bills offense, you have a chance. His upside is big. I think in season long, I'm a little worried. I think James Cook is still the guy. I thought the holdout stuff. Now he has his reasons, but I just think it'll pass and he'll be a Bill and they'll get him his money. Maybe he gets shorter years than he wants or something. But
But
James Cook just said,
there could be a world where Ray Davis absorbs a decent amount of the Josh Allen goal line rushing chunk, where it's like, yeah, we can just give this to Ray Davis to keep our superstar quarterback fresh, and it kind of doesn't matter. We're punching it in from 3 yards out either way.
yeah, I guess it's hard to predict necessarily if what's going to change. I kind of assume over the years it stays relatively the same, and it makes sense. But even Cam Newton, well into his career, I from a physique standpoint, he was still doing it, and Josh is pulling up with like nearly double the inside inside the 10, inside the 5 compared to Lamar. It's not even close because when you have Derrick Henry, why would you?
Right.
And those goal line carries, like at those key touches, I think at the scramble and design level, you could sacrifice that, but you're at the goal line. Those are the most important carries of the season. I just can't anticipate that unless Ray Davis is just super awesome as a red zone guy, that you can take away the best rushing threat. Like they said that with Cam Newton for years, and it didn't really materialize. And Josh is just such a competitor. Like he's been doing it for a while, but he does need to be smarter. And there's injury risk, but I still think these guys are honestly both guys are underrated for where they're getting drafted, like late third round. Now, would I take them 25? Absolutely not. Would I take Zay Flowers 49? Definitely not. But I'd much rather get a Josh at maybe late 20s, 30s, and get Shakir 75, and go home happy with those values. So yeah,
I,
that's kind of where I stand with it.
Yeah, I'm happy to get either of them. Honestly, with just the nature of underdog drafting, Josh always goes over Lamar, so I tend to take Josh over Lamar, which leads to a higher Lamar exposure for me, just because I'm more in a position to take Lamar in the early fourth round. It's a lot of fun, and it happens sometimes. I do think I want to be above the field on Lamar and maybe at or slightly below on Josh. Not because I don't like it, but I just I don't build a gazillion teams with elite quarterbacks, and I have more Jane Daniels and Jalen Hurts. In terms of stacking partners, end up liking to stack Lamar more as part of it as well. That's not a fantasy points argument, but that's just I feel pretty comfortable knowing that Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, the tight ends are the recipients. Last year, we didn't get a single pass catcher on Buffalo to get 20 fantasy points. So, and it can be so unconcentrated. Kind of feels hard to stack it up where it's like when Lamar goes off, I know I'm getting this compounding effect of the stacking partner. And I feel comfortable with who that is. I don't have to really worry about like Devontae Walker or some like third, fourth wide receiver quite as much. Whereas on the Bills, there's like 5 wide receivers playing in a given week. A, they're not consolidating the routes. B, you don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, I think as the efficiency numbers of some of the main guys, even Kincaid when he's in the game, he does pretty solidly just from a production, maybe an efficiency, then like yards per target standpoint, he isn't great, but he does attract a lot of targets and work when he's in the game. But I think that they're going to get a little, just from a logical standpoint, that they will raise up. They see that Shakir is more efficient. He got a 4-year deal in the offseason. They put 3 years into Palmer. James Cook has taken over the backfield, and he caught passes in college as well. So that's another potential source if they're looking to protect Josh a little bit.
True.
They could dump it down to him a little more. But I just like the prices overall, and Vegas really favors Keon as well. And that wrist injury gives me a lot of confidence that maybe he's not the most complete receiver, but Gabe Davis has done crazy
True.
stuff in this offense. Like, why can't he be what they wanted Gabe Davis to be?
No,
And
that's very true.
and those that from a fantasy standpoint, now there are frustrating, really stupid turnovers, but he's still one of the game's best, and he's willing to just go all out for it. And they could even design more touches for him, depending on how they feel or if he is able to protect himself and go out of bounds. Maybe they're comfortable giving him more of a Lamar workload, but they're a little risk with like, what if Hopkins isn't bad? What if Andrews has taken a step back? What if Henry is aging? And these are slight things, but that's kind of the risk factor I'm seeing. That's like the main little difference.
No, no doubt about it. It's entirely possible Josh could be dealing with a better skill core this year, and that will be interesting to follow along. So ultimately, guys, let us know in the comments what you're rocking with. Are you Team Josh? Are you Team Lamar? Are you feeling Lamar's touchdown rate might regress? Are you feeling my Josh Allen's rushing touchdown rate might regress? Either of these guys could regress. They might not. They're both total superstars. Could totally smash and be right there with each other at the end of the year again. Feel comfortable taking either one of them. But clearly, Shawn and I each have our little preference. So from Shawn, from Sus, hit the like, hit comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Peace.